But what was there before Islam? How did Arab people live, rule themselves? What did they believe in? Welcome to our video on Arabia before Islam.
What's going on, everyone? I hope that you are doing great. IJayReaction from Canada is back with another reaction video. Oh my god, it feels great to be back, guys, after 2 days that I couldn't look at the screens because of the infection in my right eye. It was so sudden and it happened suddenly. It was an unfortunate. Well, I'm so happy that I'm back now and I'm gonna record videos for you as always. But today I decided to record a totally different video, guys. We're gonna go through a part of history. Studying and reading the history of nations is one of my hobbies, and as we have covered a lot of Arabic music videos on my channel, I was reading the different references regarding the history of Arabs, especially Arabian Peninsula, and I came across a highly informative video in the name of Arabia Before Islam, Religion, Society, Culture, Documentary. And this is a really great video, and it gives us a lot of information. I have already watched this video, and still I wanted to share it with you guys. So we're gonna watch this video today, and after that I'm gonna again record my regular reaction videos to the musics. Well, no more talking, guys, and let's jump in because it's gonna be a long video and I'm sure that you're gonna like it. Let's do it.
The Arab world is mostly identified with Islam, and for good reason. Islam was a catalyst of the biggest expansion of the Arabic people in history. It paved the way for the establishment of arguably the most powerful empire of its time, the Islamic Caliphate, which at its zenith ranged from Spain and North Africa in the west to Central Asia and the Indian subcontinent in the east. The Caliphate managed to be one of the most dominant political, military, scientific and cultural centers of the world for several centuries, while the religion of Islam remains one of the most important political and societal forces globally. But what was there before Islam? How did Arab people live, rule themselves? What did they believe in? Welcome to our video on Arabia before Islam. History.
So in this video we're gonna get familiar with the names of different tribes, different governments before Islam, what happened, and the story of Mecca and Medina, and it is really fascinating, guys. I really loved watching it, and let's do it.
Pre-Islamic Arabia was mostly a nomadic society, inhabited by constantly moving tribal units. These Bedouin tribes, some of which maintain their traditional nomadic lifestyle to this day, had been the most significant political unit of the Arabian Peninsula, with constantly shifting alliances, never-ending warfare, and rare occurrences of organized and centralized statehood. These tribes placed heavy emphasis on kin-related groups and families, and would roam through the deserts with their livestock, mainly comprising of sheep, goats, and camels, living in tents with their immediate family members. The tribal leaders enforced unwritten rules of the Bedouin society in the tribe. Bedouin tribes were patriarchal, as inheritance passed to male offspring, and women could not inherit property and were virtually rightless, as they could be seized in tribal conflicts as a spoil of war, and the Bedouin laws allowed the men to marry their captives. The number of women a man could marry was not fixed. When a man died, his son inherited all his wives, except his own mother. Women in tribal Arabia had little say in their marriages, as they would often be arranged between a man and his future wife's family.
Well, at that moment there were no rules, right? They were just trying to survive, and at that moment we had a lot of tribes over there, and they were fighting with each other, fighting over resources and survival, guys. So they were killing each other for the resources, and also they were trying to take their vengeance from different tribes, and the situation was really complicated. There were no rules, and people were just living like that.
And the family would receive property like camels or horses in exchange for the bride. There were also cases of killing female infants, as the Muslim holy book the Quran mentions that the Arabs of the period of ignorance, called Jahiliyyah, would bury their daughters alive.
But not all tribes were killing their daughters. We should mention this as well. I was reading that in another reference. The reason that they were doing that was, again, survival, guys. Like, each tribe had to have a lot of male members, and when they had a lot of female members, they were looking like weak tribes, and other tribes could attack them, and because of that they had to kill their infants, just to look powerful, just to look strong, and to be able to defeat other tribes.
The Bedouin men often considered women an economic burden and a potential source of embarrassment, as the capture of women of the tribe by hostile tribes was considered humiliating in the conservative Bedouin society. Under the circumstances of lack of centralized states, with rare exceptions, there were no written laws, courts, or law enforcement of any kind to protect the population. Thus, the principal purpose of a Bedouin tribe was to protect its members. Vengeance was sought for the killing of a tribe member by another tribe, which led to virtually constant warfare and conflict.
Blood for blood.
Protecting your tribe and avenging your kin was a high honor. Harsh living conditions of the Arabian Peninsula further enhanced the tribal system and sense of identity within a tribe, as often their protection and economic cooperation was the difference between death and survival. French historian Maxime Redonson states that the free Arabs were bound by no written code of law, and no state existed to enforce its statutes with the backing of a police force. The only protection for a man's life was the certainty established by custom that it would be dearly bought. Blood for blood and a life for a life. The vendetta, tha'ar in Arabic, is one of the pillars of Bedouin society. Austrian historian Gustav E. von Grunebaum reiterated this and described the state of affairs in Arabia in the century before the rise of Islam as tribal guerrilla fighting, all against all. Tribes would fight against each other.
Guys, in my point of view, this is not a bad thing. At that moment, they had to live like this to survive. All of these is just for survival, and there's no shame in this part of history. It was their system. I mean, people and humans live based on their time period. Like, at that moment, this was the best survival strategy, and they perfectly nailed it. So the fact itself is, in our point of view from this time, of course it is negative, but at that time they had to do that to survive.
Attack and plunder caravans and sedentary settlements, as lawlessness was the law of the land in most of Arabia. Caravans and sedentary settlements would pay tribute to the raiding Bedouin tribes to avoid their attacks. While most of the tribes in Arabia went on with their nomadic lifestyle, some managed to gain influence over certain territories and switched to a sedentary life. Mecca was practically ruled by the skilled merchants of the Quraysh tribe that took control of the city sometime in the 5th century, while Yathrib, which was later named Medina, was dominated by the Arab tribes of Aus and Khazraj, and the Jewish tribes Natir, Kenuka, and Qurayza.
So in this point, I must say that Arabs were nomadic people, and among them some decided to settle down in Mecca and Medina, and even those Arabs who were still nomad, they were mocking those who tried to just settle down in Mecca and Medina. They were mocking them like, look at them, this is how you live, this is not the way you can live. The establishment of Mecca was the first cities in the history of Arabian Peninsula, and we should know that before this fact, guys, in history, we have another settlement, another city settlement, which was in Iran. It's called the Burned City. It was 8,000 years BC, guys. So after that city, this is the the second settlement of human in the cities.
While the nomadic Bedouins viewed sedentary life with contempt and thought of the town dwellers as a nation of shopkeepers, the emergence of cities like Mecca was the primary cause of the dawn of the common Arab identity in the pre-Islamic period. The most important cities of the Arabian Peninsula, Mecca and Yathrib, were situated in Hijaz, a region with sufficient water supply,
Perfect
which made it a
opportunity for
logical
settle
choice
down.
for a sedentary lifestyle in the otherwise punishing climate and terrain of Arabia. Mecca was an important trade center in the region, a place through which caravans would flow, as well as the location of the Kaaba, a sacred place in Islam, which was also sacred in polytheistic Arabia, where the statues of idols and gods of different Arabic tribes were placed.
Even guys, before Islam, Mecca was a religious city, and people respect Mecca so much. And you know guys, because of the war of Sassanid Empire in Iran and Roman Empire, a lot of commercial caravans was afraid of traveling through those routes close to Iran and Roman borders. So they decided to came down toward Mecca to do their business, to do their trades, and the war among Sassanid and Roman Empire, led the commercial force go toward Mecca, and people were going there. They were trading their stuffs, and they were meeting each other, and along with the goods that they were taking to Mecca, they were taking their religion as well. They were trading their religion. They were introducing their religion to other people, and some people converted in their religion, and it was that situation was happening all the time in Mecca.
The Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, who lived between 60 and 30 BC, wrote about the isolated region of Arabia in his work Bibliotheca Historica, describing Kaaba as a very holy temple which was exceedingly revered by all Arabians. For example, the chief deity of the Quraysh tribe and Mecca was Hubal. The usual trading routes through the Red Sea and the Tigris and Euphrates were disrupted by piracy and the Roman-Persian conflict, and caravans and traders switched to the trade route going through Mecca. Goods from beyond the Red Sea and of the local Bedouin tribes would be brought to Mecca, from where the camel caravans would transport them to the Levant. Meccans signed treaties with the Byzantine Empire and Bedouin tribes for safe passage of their trading caravans. As the home of the Kaaba, Mecca also carried a religious significance for the polytheistic Arabs, as once a year, Arabs from all over Arabia would make a pilgrimage to Kaaba and drink from the sacred Zamzam well.
Because of this fact, guys, Mecca became a strong city regarding business and money. It was a rich city at that moment.
At this time of the year, conflict would stop, a truce would be declared, disputes and debts would be resolved, and trade happened between different tribes.
Yeah.
Thus, Mecca became a center of a loose confederation of tribes around this city, as guests were obliged to follow the rules in Mecca. The trading potential of Mecca and its religious significance for the Arabs turned it into a factor bringing Arabs together and forming their national identity. Another important city of Arabia was Yathrib, Medina. It was an agricultural center.
The one thing that we should know is that even after turning Mecca to the central place for the commercial, still Arabs were not united, guys. They were just doing as they wanted to. Different tribes were walking their own path, and they were not united at all.
Also situated in a fertile region of Hijaz, which allowed the city to become an important transit point for trade caravans traveling along the Red Sea. Initially, Yathrib was dominated by Jewish tribes, but gradually several Arabic tribes moved to Yathrib and gained
these tribes went from Yemen toward Medina
and economic influence in the city too. While Arabs were mainly engaged in agriculture, Jews would also be active as businessmen. The rise of cities was inevitably going to lead to the rise of commerce too, and the rise of commerce was inevitably going to lead to usury, a practice which was used by both the Arabs and Jews.
So the fact that in Islam we call riba even existed at that moment, and they had trades including riba, and after that that Islam emerged, riba was haram, and we didn't have riba anymore over there.
This practice would be later prohibited by Islam. We already saw that even in pre-Islamic Arabia, religion played an important role in shaping the common Arab identity. What religion did the Arabs practice before the rise of Islam? Religion in pre-Islamic Arabia was a mix of polytheism, Christianity, Judaism, and Iranian religions.
So about Iranian religion, I must say that we had Zoroastrianism, we had Manavi, and we had Mazdaki at that time, guys. Even about Zoroastrianism, the Quran has mentioned to them as Maguz, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Arab polytheism, or paganism, was the most popular belief system. Each tribe, city, and region could have its own god or idol, which was in a way a patron of that particular community. Arabs also believed in supernatural beings like jinns. Statues of gods and goddesses would be placed in Kaaba, and some scholars argue that Allah, the deity of Islam and other Abrahamic religions, also had a statue in Kaaba. There are hadiths, the authenticity of which is disputed, claiming that Kaaba also had an image of the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, with Abraham looking over them. Overall, it is estimated that Kaaba contained up to 360 such statues and images. Trading and political relations with the Byzantine Empire, Ethiopia, Persia, and other neighboring forces had a role in shaping the religious landscape of Arabia too. As early as the 1st century AD, Arab traders brought Christianity to Arabia. Others were evangelized by Paul's ministry in Arabia and by St. Thomas, followed by a strong influence from the Byzantine Empire.
So the first people who converted to Christianity in Arabian Peninsula was Ghassanids. Ghassanids were close to Roman Empire, and after Ghassanids we have here Aksum. I think kingdom, they were kingdom as well. So first Ghassanids became Christian, and after that Aksums became Christian, and we're gonna see the rest of the story in the video.
For example, the Ghassanids, a vassal kingdom of Rome, converted to Christianity. In the south of the country, a strong Christian community emerged in Najran as a result of the influence of the Ethiopian Christian kingdom of Aksum.
And guys, Ghassanids' location is the current Syria. Even their capital was one of Syrian cities. I'm not sure. I think in this video they're gonna mention that. And yeah,
Nestorian
they were fighting. They were supporting the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was using them in their fights.
Christianity was strong in parts of the country, but the most popular denomination was monophysitism. Judaism was also a significant part of the religious landscape of Arabia. As a result of Roman persecution, the migration of Jewish people to Arabia started as early as the 1st century AD. Many Jews found homes in Hijaz and towns like Yathrib, Khaybar, Fadak, and al-Qura. Many Arabs also converted to Judaism, as often it was a condition of settling in Jewish-dominated towns of Hijaz. The Yemeni Himyarite kingdom converted to Judaism in the...
So the Roman Empire was bugging Jews, and they decided to immigrate in the Arabian Peninsula, and they came all the way till Yemen, and then guys they formed Himyar kingdom here. This kingdom was so independent and so powerful that even many European countries has established based on the structure of Himyar kingdom. It is really fascinating.
In the 4th century, and some of the Kinda, a tribe in Central Arabia who were the Himyarites' vassals, were also converted by the 5th century.
So wait a minute, here the video doesn't explain well. Well, Himyar was Christian, first of all. And when Jews traveled to Himyar toward Yemen, all of those people converted to Judaism, and still they had some Christians among them. So those Christian people didn't want to convert to Judaism. They decided to travel toward the central part of Arabian Peninsula, and they established Kinda Kingdom, Kinda territory. And the interesting part is that after, I think, 2 centuries, again, same people converted to Judaism.
Central Arabia, who were the Himyarites' vassals, were also converted by the 5th century. Sources also inform about a monotheistic religion centered around the worship of a single god of the Abrahamic religions, but apparently it was not affiliated with Christianity or Judaism, and was probably centered around the prophethood of Abraham. Followers of this religion were called Hafini people, and they rejected the idolatry and paganism of the majority of Arabs, sharing some of the features of other Abrahamic religions.
Alright, so the pronunciation of this Hanifi, in this part I have to say that in Islam, in the Sunni Muslims have 4 major sections. I mean, they're not sections, they're just different leaders. It's called Hanifi, Hanbali, Maliki, and Shafi'i. So in this video it says that Hanifis existed even before Islam, and I think it's gonna mention that even it says that Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Hanifi as well. What happened?
Like the prohibition of pork. The scope of expansion of the Hafini people is unclear, but according to some Islamic sources, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, and some of his future companions belonged to this religion.
Even
Arabia
before Islam, Hanifis didn't eat pork. Pork was haram even at that moment.
Also had a small minority following Iran-based religions like Zoroastrianism, Mazdekism, and others spreading under Persian influence. Earlier we mentioned how in the pre-Islamic period, Arab statehood was relatively rare, as Arabia constantly moved from tribal anarchy to loose state organizations and back again. But there have been a number of notable states in Arabia in the pre-Islamic period mentioned in Greek, Roman, Mesopotamian and Persian sources, and oral Arab traditions later recorded by Islamic scholars. According to the Arab classical writers, Arabs divided themselves into the Yemenites, the South Arabs descended from Qattan, and the North Arabs descended from Adnan. It is interesting that these 2 groups had certain distinctions, and the existence of statehood and political systems were among them. South Arabia, Yemen, had more established states, and all of them were ruled as monarchies. In the north, loose tribal confederations or de facto city-states like Mecca were a more prevalent form of statehood. Such states were ruled as oligarchies and aristocracies.
Guys, the kingdom of Yemen was so sophisticated and they were so independent. They didn't listen to anyone, then they were deciding for themselves. They were so, flawless. And first of all, the southern part of Arabian Peninsula was the perfect place to live, and after that they decided to travel toward cities like Mecca and Medina.
The south was considered more advanced, as it was the key route of trade in Arabia, prior to the emergence of Mecca as an alternative, and had a higher degree of contact with outsiders such as Ethiopians. From the 4th century onwards, a reverse process started, as many southern tribes migrated to the north and underwent northern influence. The South Arabian script vanished, and North Arabian proliferated in Arabia. The Thamud tribe, or tribal union, was one of the first recorded states in Arabia, which was a prominent force in northwestern Arabia according to the Assyrian sources related to the 8th century BC, and were later used as auxiliary forces by the Roman Empire according to the Roman sources. In the 3rd century BC, the Greek scholar Eratosthenes mentioned Minoans, Sabaeans, Katabanians, and Hadramites as the main people inhabiting the Arabian Peninsula. Historians mention the independent Sabaean kingdom situated in present-day Yemen, which was later conquered by the Himyarite kingdom around 280 AD.
Yeah, Aksum, the kingdom of Aksum conquered Himyar. Yeah, they terminated the Yemeni kingdom, and they became Christian. Even I think
was later conquered by the Himyarite kingdom around
they built a cathedral over there as well.
AD. The Himyarite kingdom was one of the most prominent pre-Islamic states of the Arabian Peninsula. It was ruled by a monarch, but in practice, the power of the state was shared with regional governors, which had a high degree of autonomy, a system akin to medieval-era European kingdoms. By the early 4th century AD, the Himyarite kingdom ruled over southern Arabia and expanded north to Najran. Originally polytheistic Himyarites became monotheistic sometime in the 4th century with a belief in the Abrahamic god. At the end of the 5th century, the Himyarite king Abu Kariba adopted Judaism as his faith.
Judaism.
His son and successor, Yusuf Dunuas, was even more zealous, as he started persecuting Christians living in the kingdom. This proved to be the undoing of the Himyarite dynasty, as Dunuas was either killed or committed suicide after being defeated by the Christian coalition of the Ethiopian kingdom of Aksum, the Byzantine Empire, and South Arabian Christians in 524.
He was pushing Christians from Himyar, and he was telling them just get out of this kingdom because we are Jewish. And then based on what I read from other references was that he committed suicide.
Christian Ethiopians then took control of South Arabia, built a church in Sana in an attempt to attract pilgrims, and hence trade to Sana in place of Mecca. This caused a conflict between Abraha, the Ethiopian viceroy in Yemen, and Mecca, mentioned in the Quran. Apparently, Abraha used war elephants against Mecca, but was unsuccessful and had to turn back.
Yeah, this is the famous story that even Quran mentioned that,
The second part of the 6th century was notable for the power struggle between Ethiopians and Sassanids for control over the remainder of the Himyarite kingdom, in which the Persian Empire succeeded. Another prominent pre-Islamic state organization in Arabia was the Kinda Kingdom, the first state in Central Arabia recorded.
As I told you guys, this Kinda Kingdom is again the same people in Himyar Kingdom that they didn't want to convert into Judaism, and they decided to go to the central part of Arabian Peninsula. They stayed there, but after 2 centuries, I guess, they converted again into Judaism.
Recorded by history, which came to existence after the Kinda tribe managed to unite all tribes in Najd around the late 5th century.
Kinda was so powerful.
The Kinda kingdom attempted a number of successful raids on Byzantine territories in North Arabia, but similar endeavors against the Sassanid Empire failed, when in 529 the Lakhmid vassals of the Persians defeated and killed the Kindan king Al-Harith bin Amr, which caused the decline of this state.
So Lakhmid tribe here was the vassals of Sassanid Empire, and Ghassanid was the vassal of Roman Empire.
The aforementioned Lakhmid kingdom was established in East Arabia by the Banu Lakham tribe around the 3rd to 4th centuries. Initially, independent Lakhmids were threatening the coastal cities of the Sassanid Empire, and in 325 the Sassanid Emperor Shapur II began a campaign against them.
And guys, Sassanid Empire was the mix of Persians and Kurds at that moment, and the king of Shapur, I think he is the 10th king of that empire, and he conquered that king. He terminated Kinda by using Lakhmid tribe.
Soon the Lakhmid capital Hira was taken under control of the Sassanids. Since then, the Lakhmid kingdom became vassals of the Sassanid Empire until it was annexed by them in the early 7th century. The Ghassanid kingdom had a similar fate. Sometime in the 3rd century AD, part of the Al-Adz tribe migrated from Yemen to the Levant and established the Ghassanid kingdom as a vassal of the Eastern Roman Empire, with a capital at Jabiyah in the Golan Heights. The Ghassanid kingdom ceased its existence in the period of early Islamic expansion. But none of
Ghassanid territory existed after Islam.
These kingdoms were powerful and centralized enough to unite Arabs in one state and protect the realm from foreign attack. Most of Arabia was governed by unwritten rules of Bedouin society, causing warfare and despair amidst already harsh living conditions. The pre-Islamic Arabs might have shared similar language and traditions, but they were divided by tribal identity, blood revenge, and religions. But very soon, Arabia and beyond would be transformed by a momentous process of the emergence of Islam.
Islam existed. Islam united all Arabs, and they all become united. They became united, and even at that moment, they were not calling themselves Arabic Kingdom. They were calling themselves Islamic Kingdom. No, Islamic rulers, right? And that area is the Golden Islamic area.
Islam and the creation of a unified Arabic state. More videos on ancient civilizations are on the way.
Actually, it's not unified Arabic. It is unified Islamic state. Yeah, I remember that. They have never said that we are unified Arabs. They said that we are unified Islamic state.
Make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to see the next video in the series.
Yeah,
please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. It helps
guys,
immensely.
The reason that I know some Arabic words and sentences is because of Islam. That the way that Islam united people, everyone became Muslim. Still, we can see the effect of that, like in people like me. That I'm from this area, like this part of Iran, and because of Islam. So everyone converted to Islam, and we know the Islamic rules, we know the Islamic thoughts, we know the Sharia, and we have adopted the words, sentences, the rules based on Islam, guys. Well, yeah, that's the end of this video. Well, it is a long story, guys, so we have a lot of information in the history of Arabian Peninsula, and to be honest, this is just the part before Islam. We have a lot of stories after Islam. We have the stories of how Ottoman Empire took over Arabian Peninsula, and after that even we have the story of how they found oil in that territory. So you know, if I want to create videos about those areas, it's going to be a lot of information. But if you enjoyed watching this video, and if you like this kind of videos, I personally love to read about the history and to know about the history of nations. But creating videos in this genre is difficult as well. But if you want to know about those stories as well, I can you know, I can spend some more time to create the other episodes of this part. But I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm sure that you loved knowing about these stories as well, and it's good to know that, right? Well, guys, let me know if you liked the video or not. I personally loved it, and I'm glad that I know all these stuffs about that area. And thank you so much for watching it. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, you already know what to do. Hit that like button. If you are new to my channel, do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. I want you to stay safe wherever you are, and I'll definitely catch you on next reaction videos. Take a good care of yourself, and peace.